Hello, hello, hello. This is Dr. Janice R. Love, also known as the First Lady Coach, and I equip seasoned pastors' wives to have the clarity, the confidence, and the courage to walk boldly into the destiny for which she was chosen by being perfectly who God created her to be. Hello, hello, and welcome to session 3 of my Pearl Power series. In here and let's see. So, again, this is the Pearl Power series. I second that emotion, how to manage your emotions the healthy way, God's way. And tonight we are going to be focused on from confined to confirmed. Now, when we think about the emotion confined, it is in the sad series. Okay. Sad meaning oftentimes when we feel confined, there are several things that we are dealing with that cause us to feel a certain kind of way. So, first of all, let me define confined. So, the definition that we have is to restrict someone with certain limits of space, area, scope, quantity, or time. Now, being a pastor's wife, if you are a pastor's wife or if you are married to an influencer of some type, you already know what it feels like to be confined. Oftentimes, because we are public figures, right? People know our husbands. People can spot us in the strangest places like Walmart when we haven't quite done anything, right? They can spot us. And so oftentimes, because we are married to influencers, we may feel confined. And again, you may not even be married to an influencer, but in a situation where you are feeling like you are restricted some type of way. So, can you second that emotion that you are feeling that you are confined in some type of way? So, let's talk a little bit about what it means again to be confined. Again, it exists in the sad section, and we have been focusing on 6 different emotions this week, whether that's fear, anger, sadness, surprise, joy, and love. And of course, we want to move over to the joy and love and move out of the fear, the sadness, the surprise, even because surprise isn't always that great, right? We want to move over into the joy because again, when we are existing in the space of joy, then that is not only healthier for our minds, but it is also healthier for our bodies. So when you think about what you are dealing with when you are confined, perhaps you feel insecure because you are afraid that you can't make a decision. If you make one decision, somebody will be upset. If you make another decision, another person. So you may feel confined. You may even be dealing with imposter syndrome because you don't feel like you can be yourself. You know, sometimes there are settings that will confine what we can do, what we can say, what we can wear. And oftentimes, again, it's hard for us to make a decision because, again, we don't want to be judged. There might be times because you are confined that you feel like a misfit. You don't know if you can fit in or you don't know where you belong. Again, because you are confined to certain rules, maybe certain expectations, maybe even certain laws, right? That keep you sometimes from not only being yourself, but also keep you from using the gifts that God has given you. Your self confidence might be undermined. Or you might have that feeling that you are stuck. So imagine that you have been confined for years. You can easily move over into that hopeless state, being sad because you feel like you have no power to change things. So it can cause you to feel depressed as well. So let's just look at some of the things that being confined can create, such as it feels like you are in a box or that you can't go anywhere. And again, whether that's going anywhere emotionally or going anywhere physically, you feel like you want to to break out of that box you're in. Or maybe you even feel like you're in a fishbowl. So many times people are watching us at all times, and it feels confining. We can't really step out and be ourselves because we feel like people are watching us in either in glass houses or in a fishbowl. We might even find ourselves concealing our identity because if anybody knows the real us, they may judge again us or even our husbands. So it doesn't feel good. Can anybody second that emotion? It does not feel good to be confined. And again, whether that is emotionally or whether you are confined in space, meaning there's certain places you can't go, or you have to stay in a little box that everybody puts you in. We can end up feeling confined. All right. So there's nobody that felt more confined than you know who. My favorite person is Queen Esther. Now, if you do have not read the book of Esther, which is one of two books that are named after women in the Bible, if you have not read the book of Esther, you might not get it. And if you don't get it, please grab a Bible and go and do one sitting and read that entire book of Esther. It is wonderful. And it is often the biblical text that is referred to when we are talking about living in our purpose or walking in our calling. So we are going straight to Esther tonight because she went from being confined to confirmed. Let's talk a little bit about what confirmed means. Confirmed means firmly established in a particular belief or way of life. Again, not being confined anymore, but you are confirmed and firmly established in your beliefs or in your particular way of life. And where I like being confirmed is knowing exactly what God created you to do, and just being all that you can be and walking boldly into that destiny again for which you have been chosen. So let me tell you what Esther was experiencing in her own life. Now, again, you all know the story, so I am not going to spend a whole lot of time telling you what Esther was dealing with, but you already know the story. But where I want to pick up from, not from where she was an orphan and she had to go live with her cousin Mordecai, but I want to pick up where she was moved to the palace and now she was in the beauty contest waiting to see if she could be chosen by the king. Okay, again, if you don't know anything about that, go back and read it. So here is Esther, most likely taken against her will, and she is now at the palace. The reason she is at the palace is because he is looking for a new queen. And she is in a beauty contest. They went out and found the most beautiful virgins in the area who would all go on trial or have one night with the king to see who he wanted to replace the queen that he threw out. That's another story. We'll talk about that another time. So anyway, Esther spends years preparing for this one night with the king. And again, this isn't an opportunity for her to wow him with her knowledge and how smart she is, right? This is all about a sex thing. Sadly enough, it's all about these women were trained in what the king liked, and their main goal was to go in there in their one night with the king and please the king. Well, turns out Esther, the man, fell in love with her. Esther, I don't know what she did. She didn't put on a whole bunch of extra clothes. She didn't put on a whole bunch of extra makeup, but I don't know what she did. But the man was smitten. Okay. All right, so now let's look at the circumstances that Esther is in as soon as she becomes queen. Once she became queen, and even when she got to the palace, she is confined because number one, she has to learn it's all about the king. It's not about what you want to do and how much fun or what you get to do. It's all about learning about the king. So the first thing that she could not, the way she was confined, is it wasn't an opportunity to develop her skills or develop who God created her to be. It was an opportunity for her to learn about him. So she was confined there. But she if you know the story, you also know that she was told by her cousin not to reveal her race, which the way I look, she could not reveal her identity. She could not reveal exactly who she was because that was going to create. Okay. And again, you don't know the story, go back and read it. But so she was in a circumstance where she couldn't even reveal her identity. So imagine being confined that way. You can't be who you are. You can't worship the way you want to. You can't necessarily make a decision about what you're going to eat and what you're not going to eat. She was confined again because she could not reveal her identity. Now, in our lives, especially as women married to ministry, sometimes we feel like we cannot clearly expose our identity, right? That we can't reveal our identity. We can't be ourselves because people have these expectations of how we're supposed to be. And oftentimes, our expectations aren't going to match everybody. So sometimes we feel confined that we can't truly be ourselves. But we have to go off and do it somewhere else, or we have to go off and have close friends that know and understand us. So many times we feel confined because ultimately it can come back and not only affect our lives, but our husband. So first of all, she was bound because she could not reveal her identity. Secondly, she was bound by the laws of the kingdom. So, as we go on into the story, there are certain rules and regulations about what she can and can't do. One of them is that if she wants to see her husband, the king, then she literally has to ask permission. Okay. Now, not only does she have to ask permission, but if he decides that he doesn't want to see her, right, then he can say no. And guess what? She would be killed. So she is confined by all these laws. And again, I can only imagine with this being the beauty contest or whatever, that there were a whole lot of things that women could not do in the palace, even though she was the queen. Because as we look up at the story, what was she doing all day? We don't even know. She had no role except for when the king asked for her that she would please him. Okay. So she was bound by the laws of the kingdom. And I can imagine she felt powerless. Again, she probably didn't even want to be there in the first place. And then she got to sit around waiting on him to decide when he wants to see her. Please. All right. So the other thing is she just had limited access to her husband. So imagine that. But then again, you can imagine that because so many times our husband's schedules are so busy that we have limited access to our husband. People think that we should just understand that he's got all these things to do, but God first, family second. I won't go there. Anyway, so you can clearly understand the limited access to her husband. And again, she even had to ask for permission to speak with him. Sometimes I have to make an appointment on my husband's schedule, especially if he has a lot of things going on. So that is all about being confined by the laws of the kingdom. And again, confined by the culture. Again, think about the laws of the church or the culture of the church, especially sometimes how wives are treated. Or again, even if your husband is an influencer, he's a professional basketball player, or he is a professional of some type. Oftentimes, the job can control our access to our husband. Can you second that emotion? All right. Okay. So, circumstance 3 is that she had been asked to do something that she didn't feel like she had the power to do. And her people were going to be killed. And she was the one that had to go before the king to be able to save her people. So here she is in a situation where she has been asked to do something, right? And again, you have had no power basically the whole time you have been at the palace, except for you got selected as queen because the king was so smitten for you. But she feels like she does not have the power to make this decision. And then the most famous scripture ever in the world is if you don't do it, we're going to be saved anyway. And I'm paraphrasing, but what you don't know that perhaps this is the reason for which you were created. right? I'll read it from Perhaps This Is the Moment for Which You Have Been Created, which is Esther 4 and 14. I got it up here on my wall because I look at it all the time. Anyway, she had been asked to do something that she felt like she didn't have the power to do. Plus, it was going to be a risk because remember, if her husband didn't say, yes, I want to see you, then she possibly could be killed. And we all know, again, if you know the story, what happened to the last wife when she didn't do what she was supposed to do. Anyway, so let's talk about how Miss Esther went from being confined to confirmed. So the very first thing that Esther did was she got clarity. When her cousin Mordecai said, Perhaps this is the moment for which you have been created, Esther woke up. She realized suddenly that God had placed her in such a position. And again, this book doesn't say anything about God. But when you think about your own life, sometimes our lives don't make sense. My life didn't make sense as to being married and divorced from a pastor and then marrying another pastor. My life didn't make sense. My life didn't make sense, me moving from Oklahoma to Kansas City. But when Mordecai said what he said, she started to get some clarity. It started to make sense why she had been an orphan, why she had been moved to with her cousin. Things started to make sense why she got selected to be queen in the first place. So when we recognize and get that clarity about what we have been called to do or what our purpose is, then that helps us to be able to move forward to getting out of being confined. Because again, at that point, once she knew what her purpose was, she wasn't worried about getting killed. She was more concerned about doing the very thing that she had been created to do. So she got clarity on who God had created her to be. Her life started to make sense. She also got clarity on her assignment. And she got clarity because she listened to wise counsel. And then again, she got clarity that she was chosen for such a time as this. So again, the very first thing that she clarity. And do you want clarity around who you are and what God has created you to do? Do you want clarity about the things that have happened in your life? You can have all that clarity by following Esther's example. Next, Esther got confidence. She got the confidence once she had made up her mind that she was going to do it, and she spent 3 days praying. She got confidence to ask for help. First of all, she got the confidence to know that she couldn't do this alone and that she needed others to support her. So she asked for the whole kingdom to fast on her behalf. Now we know that means fast and pray, even though it doesn't say that. But she got the support that she needed. And oftentimes when we are in a role where again we are married to influencers, we often are afraid to ask for help because we are afraid that people are going to judge us. But Esther knew she needed some help, so she asked for help. She also knew that this wasn't about her anymore. She had the confidence to take a risk to save other people. And again, when we can take the focus off of ourselves and do what we are created to do, that takes confidence. Because again, if you are insecure about who you are, you cannot step out boldly to take the focus off yourself and do the very thing that you have been created to do. So yes, it takes confidence, and that's exactly what Esther gained. She got that confidence again to also reveal her true identity. She had been holding that the whole time, but again, when the time came, she got that confidence to reveal her true identity. And then finally, Esther got some courage. She got courage to seek God's guidance, and then to come up with her plan, and then to execute her plan. She could have stopped and said, well, no, I don't think I'm going to do this. But she got the courage to move into action. And we all know as a result of this, she was able to ask her husband for what she needed. And again, she had the wisdom to tell him, if this was just something little, I wouldn't even bother you. But because the lives of my people are at stake, and the lives and my life is at stake, then I have the courage to step forth and do what I need to do. And we all know it all had a happy ending. Esther went from being confined to confirmed, knowing exactly who God had created her to be and exactly what he wanted her to do. And she did it. Don't you just love Esther? So would you like to go from being confined to confirmed? Would you like to have more clarity around who you are? Would you like to have more confidence to be able to step out and even discover what it is that God wants you to do? Do you want to have that courage to walk boldly into the destiny for which you were chosen? This is what I do. So I encourage you, if you have never visited my website, I encourage you to do that. And while you're there, learn what it is to be chosen. And if you just click on that, you'll get to learn what it is to be chosen. And you can also sign up for my email list, because I am constantly sending out information and things to encourage you in your walk and in your journey. Now, I typically work with seasoned pastors' wives, again, to so that they can have that clarity, that confidence, and that courage, just like Esther, to walk boldly into their destiny for which she was chosen. So you can go from being confined to confirm. All right.